Good morning, Mark. How you doing, man?
I am in such a good mood considering I'm going to my mother-in-law's later today.
Well, let's just let it all out there, right there. Yeah, just let's
Hey,
just toss
I
that
am
out
I
there.
am I am nothing if not honest and aware that my mother-in-law has no idea how to navigate the internet. So I can say that.
So she's not gonna. You don't have to worry about her. Okay, being
I do
offended
not.
because, well,
That my playful little joke there. I don't worry about her
it's
being
a
offended
playful
by
little
it. So
joke. Yeah, that's all.
yeah,
That's all. Yeah. So it's funny how we always start this thing off by laughing and smiling, and it's because people we are cutting up big time behind the scenes. It's all. What's this? Yeah,
yeah.
it's good fun and games. Me and Mark. This is a big deal today. This is a really big deal. This is a big. This is maybe the most important conversation we've ever had in this setting, right? I
Dun
mean,
dun dun.
and
I
we've
would
had
agree.
some
I like
really
this.
incredible conversations in this setting, but this is, this is a big one. This is a big deal, and I can already tell it's a big deal because the numbers on the little readout that I have are starting to go up, 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 and
Yeah.
that's because people are curious about our guest today. I dare say it's because we set it up so well last week, right?
I would think so. And then we've had the announcement on Sunday afternoon that everybody received in their inboxes, or the gossip chain started immediately thereafter. Today is the day.
But 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 here's the thing: we did such a good job of teasing it out last week, and then a few of you may know this. If you jumped off if you saw us close out the broadcast, and then if you jumped off too early, you missed out on something fun.
I cannot believe you're airing our dirty laundry like this. Yes, we closed out, and Steve and I were just talking about how excited we were about today and our special guest, Denna. That then I had somebody text me at the same moment that Steve looked down with that look like, what? Wait. Somebody texted me and said, you guys are still on the air, right? So I had mentioned Denna's name, and Steve was like, oh, and it got really ugly really quickly. So yes, now we can celebrate Denna's name and not be upset that people might have overheard. Everyone knows Denna Hornby is our guest today. Very excited. Our new associate pastor who will begin in July.
And you know how the camera puts like 20 pounds on you, 10 pounds, 20 pounds? You don't know that?
No,
I'm noticing that the camera picks up when your face turns beet red with embarrassment. That's
that
what
I
I'm picking up
that
on right now. So,
that I very much. Well,
yeah.
I can't believe you acknowledged that faux pas. But there you go.
Well,
That we're nothing
we're
if
all
not
about
honest.
transparency here.
We are that.
We're all
We are
about
that.
transparency. So, yeah. So, what's going on this week in the life? But first of all, I have to say, folks, this is a live conversation. Anything can happen here. Anything. And often does. That's why you keep coming back. But remember that this is a great time for you to ask your questions, make your comments, things like that. Do it in the chat. We'll see what we can do uh, to get it up there on the screen, etc.
Mhm.
You know how this works. So yeah. So what's going on in the church this week, Mark?
And
Big
for
stuff.
and for those of you who are new, this is what we do. We'll have a minute or two talking about what's going on, and then we'll break to dinner. So hold on. The
Yeah.
thing that's most important for everybody to know is remember this that May is Awareness Month, and we have several new short-term experiences for people to appreciate. Not only are we doing a sermon series on the interaction between mental health and spirituality, but we have a new Sunday school class that will take off this week. It's going to be for 3 weeks. This week, it's the executive director of Ridgeview Behavioral Health Center here in Oak Ridge is going to be talking about just that, the anxiety and depression that often associates with those who are struggling with mental health. That'll be in the chapel at 10 o'clock during Sunday school time, and there'll be question and answer at the end. And that'll be the first of three Sundays talking about that special Sunday school class. And then afternoon, evening, we're going to have our very own Melanie Hutzel, who's a new member of our congregation, who is a published author, just published a book called The Book of Susan that talks about a woman's journey of struggling with mental health, and her faith is a part of that journey. Uh, if you want to be a part of a book discussion, 3-session book discussion led by Melanie, led by the author, go to our website, go to our newsletter page, be a part of that conversation. It'll be great.
I have no doubt, and I am so glad to see this conversation taking place in different ways in the church this month. I it's kind of hard to tell sometimes what mental health and what mental illness actually looks like. You know, the person looks the same, but they're not acting, and
Mm-hmm.
they're saying things that I just my experience with this of late is seeing the amount of depression and anxiety that is a result of the pandemic. And I'm not talking about just being anxious, because we're all anxious about things all the time. A kind of a irrational
Mm-hmm.
anxiety that occurs when you don't know it, and that's what's going on. It's not that, oh, you're got things out of perspective or something like that in your own personal life. It's really chemical stuff that's going on inside your brain it's not just, hey, talk it out, or go play golf or something like that. It's see a doctor. This is serious stuff, and it really affects the way we live our lives. So I'm really, really, really glad for the church to be talking about this. There's also something going on. I think you might have mentioned it. I might have been distracted, but there's something going on, a conversation around addiction and mental health this month. Yes.
Yeah, that'll be one of our Sunday school presentations offered about the connection between mental health and addiction. And the other conversation, led by our own Sean Roach, is going to be talking about how mental health issues affect relationships, family members, friends, and what it's like to be in relationship with someone who's struggling with mental health. So that'll be the 3 different Sunday school classes.
Well, it's going to be it's a really worthwhile and very, very timely conversation to be had.
Yep. Yep.
So, with that, I'm going to invite you to introduce our guest today, and I'm going to get out of the way. How about that?
Thank you very much, Steve. I am very excited to be able to introduce to all of you, in a much more official way than we've been able to, the Reverend Denna Hornby, who is coming in July to be our associate pastor. So glad that you were here today. So glad you're coming, and I look forward to this conversation. Welcome, Denna.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here too, and I am excited to be in ministry at First Church Oak Ridge and looking forward to July.
Yay! Well, I have so many questions.
Okay.
First of all, I would love for you to explain not only how many different ways people butcher your name, but what is the correct background people need to know for how you received the name Denna. What do people call you when they mistake it?
Dina, Deanna, Dana, all sorts of variations of Denna, and it's really kind of interesting. My parents wanted me to be named after my dad, who is Denver.
Uh,
And many moons ago, when I was born, there was no ultrasound to tell parents what sex, what gender the child would be, and so they were kind of shocked and probably a little disappointed when I came out a girl instead of a boy, but they didn't know what to do with my name. And so they came up with Denna as a variation of Denver. But, honestly, I think Denver is a cool name. I would love to be named Denver. But Denna it is, and I spell it numerous times a day. The truth is, I answer to anything, as long as it's polite. I will answer to any variation of the name. And Mark knows this. I shared this when we first met, the very first time we met. If I'm ever out in public and I'm ordering food, because I'm a foodie, I love to eat. I I can't give them my real name though if they want your name with the order. For example, at Starbucks. Um,
Yes.
so I always give them a fake name. I typically use Julie. And so if you see me out at Starbucks and they call the name Julie and I move to the counter, please know that I'm not stealing someone's coffee. That will be my tall, skinny vanilla. But it's just easier to use the name Julie
That
than Denna.
I love that. That's how my honest to goodness, that was our first introduction. It's like I'm sitting in Starbucks across from the church. I've got my coffee. Here she comes. There she is. I've seen her picture on the website, so I know it's her. And we were like, "Yay! Okay, I'll order coffee. I'll be right there." And she sits down and says, "Okay, I have a confession. They're going to call Julie, and I'm going to get it. So I'll explain why." And I thought, I like this person already. That this was her first interaction. Okay, so on to more uh, theologically grounded things. Can you give us a little bit about your background, where you were born, where you were raised, what kind of people are you?
Sure. So I was born here in Knoxville. I was raised in Corryton, which is just a few miles east of
Hmm.
Knoxville. Went to Corryton Elementary School, Gibbs High School, and then ended up at the University of Tennessee for my college years. I,
Yay!
yeah, go Vols, Vols for life. So what kind of people do I come from? Very, very simple people. I am the first person in my family to ever have gone to college.
Mm,
And I remember sitting outside the humanities building at the University of Tennessee, my first day on campus, and crying. I sat down and cried because I was so overwhelmed. And there was not really
hmm.
anyone to nurture me through that process. But luckily, I made some good connections, and it was a wonderful 4 years. I love that the sermon series is going to be connecting folks with mental health. And I love that you have a new Sunday school class around that because I spent my first years out of college
Hmm.
working in mental health as a case manager. And it's so important that we validate that for people
Hmm.
and not just push it aside. So I'm excited about what's happening around that subject for First Church. After college, I moved to Middle Tennessee. I was married, had a young child, and spent most of my adulthood in the Middle Tennessee area, and that's where I experienced a call to ministry. Um, I find that my call to ministry is new every morning, and so my job in ministry has changed a little bit over the years and what it looks like. I started out in music ministry, went to welcoming ministry and servant ministries, and then had a call to pastoral ministry. And during all that time, I was divorced, became a single mom, and after several years alone, met my now husband, and he moved me back to East Tennessee. So here I am, and I am so grateful and looking forward to being in worship and mission and ministry with First Church.
Yay! Well, we're excited to have you coming. So I do think your background with social work, would you spent time literally that was as a caseworker, you would be described as social work, right? Social worker?
Well, I was a case manager, and so I had what some people would call a beat. I worked
Hmm.
with folks who were homeless. I worked with folks who were just struggling with being in the community. At this time, when I was working as a case manager, it was uh, the first sort of wave of deinstitutionalization. So there were folks trying their best to live in the community who had not done so in many, many years.
Hmm.
And I enjoyed that work. I worked also with a caseload of folks who could be termed forensic cases. They had been
Hmm.
found not guilty by reason of insanity, and so it was a vast experience. I only did that for 4 years, but I can see looking back in my life, that was my first job in ministry. It wasn't
Yeah.
called that, but that was my first job in ministry. Learning to walk beside people in their pain and learning to love them through some very difficult situations.
What a wonderful background to have in terms of really thrown in the deep end of caring for people, and I know that must have just helped you identify your longing to be connected to people and care for them, show pastoral care. It really was a, like you say, it was a pastoral care kind of situation.
Mhm.
So did
Yeah.
that make your call to ordained ministry easier, do you think, or
Oh, I
was
think
that
so.
moment when you looked up, was that still difficult to accept?
Um, I do think it made that call easier because I had the experience of walking with folks, and these weren't people who were just worried or feeling stressed temporarily over things happening in their lives. These were folks who had major mental illnesses, and so it was a chronic disease that there is no cure for, and they were struggling immensely. Um, they needed everything from housing to shoes to a way to pay their electric bills. They needed um, illness stabilizing medications. Oftentimes, they did not understand why they needed to take those medications. And so there was a
Yes.
lot of work to help them understand this is what is best for you. Um, and so, yes, having that experience with suffering uh, made the call easier. I don't know that the call's ever easy though. Every person
No, no.
I've talked to Every person I talk to says, I really kind of didn't want this. And I can honestly say it wasn't my plan for my life either. But
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
I would love to be able to say, well, I was so holy that came so naturally. No, I did not want to be a minister. Who wants to be a
uh,
minister? That's just not like the what you
when
grow up longing to be. At least I didn't. So,
Yeah, when I got this call to ministry, I I struggled with it for a long time. I actually tried to run away, and people talk about running away from God, but I'm silly enough to think that I could physically do that. And I had called my son one day at school. He was 16 by this time and driving, and I said to him, "When you get home, I want you to pack a bag. We're leaving." Because I was struggling with this call so much, I just needed to get away from everything. So we went to this little bed and breakfast and just spent the night. It was an election day the next day, and so he was out of school. And he was just playing around the area. And I just spent this whole time in prayer. And the prayer was actually, God, no, I don't want this. But I just could not shake it. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, I sat up in bed and said out loud, God, you have got to be kidding me. I'm a divorced single mom, and you're calling me to this ministry? But at that time, I said, okay, God, I'm in it. I'm in it. And it's been the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm so glad that I came to my senses.
well, praise God. I love, love, love hearing that story because it's so authentic. It's out of that humanness, the brokenness. None of us say, we all have that moment when we say, really, is it me? And I really deeply appreciate you sharing that moment in your life. Now you were still in Middle Tennessee at this point, right? In terms of where you were living and residing. So you began your actual ordination process, study for school, and I guess early appointment stuff, connecting with churches there in Middle Tennessee, correct?
I did. I did. I joke that I haven't made my way out of Tennessee in terms of, permanent residence, but I have worked my way down I-40. So I was in Middle Tennessee. That's where I began my pastoral studies. I served churches in the Middle Tennessee area. I did my seminary course of study at Candler, which is at Emory University down near Atlanta.
I've
It,
I've
it,
heard of that. I've heard of that. So
here's to Candler.
we'll
I
overcome a lot of that though. Don't worry about that.
I loved my time at Candler. I loved it so much. The only thing is, man, it's hot in Atlanta in July. Oh my
Yes,
heavens.
it is. Yes, it is. Oh,
But it was
so
it was good.
what was your, so you've been going through, for those who aren't like, and why would you be a Methodist nerd? Course of study is one of the ways you can do your seminary education as opposed to going and living and being in seminary for a 3 year period of time or 4 year period of time. And it gives opportunity really in many ways, I think a superior, uh, ability to connect what you're learning with practical in church experiences. Did you have, were you serving in a local church during your early years of course of study?
I was. So I was working full time, serving full time in school at that same time. And
Hmm.
Candler does such a good job at that. Their
Yeah,
faculty is invested and committed to pastoral education, and so they really just poured into me. I had a wonderful experience there. I can
good.
recommend it to anyone. I will say this though, at the end of my time there, upon graduation, I was very grateful to not be up at midnight writing papers so that I could get to work early the next day. It's kind of nice to not be doing that, but I loved the experience. It was wonderful.
Good. I'm so glad. Well, tell us a little bit about that first appointment or those first couple of appointments you had. Where were you working in church? What was that like?
So my first appointment was actually at the church that I had been working at for the previous 10 years. I had been on staff 10 years, got an appointment there. It was in Cookeville. And then mid-year, there was some appointment stuff going on. And so I was moved after just 3 months at that appointment to Nashville. There was a
Hmm.
pastor who was retiring in December. That retirement date got pushed up to November. It got pushed up again to October. And so I laughed that all the really good people were already appointed as of July 1. And so they didn't have anybody to send, so they sent me. But it was a great experience. I loved it. Spent some time in the Nashville area. I learned to love country music there. I never liked country music until I lived there. But I learned to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Keith Urban. I love Keith Urban. But
Considering
anyway,
Shelby Fowler, our children's person, just stepped into my office a little while ago wearing a Dolly Parton shirt. I will
I
celebrate
call
that. There are
her.
certain, oh yeah, oh yeah, there are
I
certain
love
aspects
Dolly.
of country music we appreciate around here. So
I do love Dolly. I call her Saint Dolly of Sevierville. I'm very happy the way Dolly pours into her community. And I was very
yes,
grateful to Dolly for what she did for the COVID vaccines, putting
oh
her
yeah, oh
money
Dolly's
in.
great.
Yeah,
Dolly's wonderful. So
love
go
me
okay,
some.
back from country music, back to the appointment. So
Okay. And
you're
so
working
then
in a
moved from Nashville to Monterey, which Monterey was actually the place where that little bed and breakfast was, where I got my call to ministry. And it was fun serving Monterey. I was there for 3 years. And then this guy came into my life. So I was committed to being single. I was done. I had no interest in a relationship and I got a dog. And I left my dog and she loved me and she was my companion. And then I met this guy who swept me off my feet, proposed marriage, and moved me back to East Tennessee. So here I am. I've most recently
yay.
spent the last 2 years at Powell Church, and I'm grateful for that opportunity and that experience there, and excited about being in Oak Ridge in July.
Yay! There's so many questions that I mean, I'm dying to ask you around that entire story. Let's
Okay.
just go chronologically. Did you enjoy being, you were the single pastor, the lone pastor, the senior pastor at Monterey. Did you enjoy that experience of being the senior pastor?
Well, I did enjoy it, but no one can do that work alone. And so, even though I was the solo pastor, I formed teams that were just great working together to do the work, the pastoral ministry in the community. So even though I had the title of pastor, we were a great team doing ministry together.
Yeah.
It wasn't just me.
That is very, very well said. It never is just you. And you're wise to have surrounded yourself with good people in teams. That's a great habit to form in any ministry you go into. So, while you met this guy, can you tell us a little? I know one of the questions people are going to want to know is tell us about your husband.
Okay, so my husband is James Hack, and he's recently retired from Oak Ridge National Lab. He was the director of the High Performance Computing Center there, and Gosh, Jim and I met when we were both just really broken and
Mm.
alone. We we were not interested in a relationship. We were friends for about 3 years before there was ever a spark. And yeah, I felt the spark first. And I said,
Mm.
hey, I need you to know I'm developing feelings. And he was very honest and broke my heart and said, no, I'm never going there again. You need to know I'm not interested in a relationship. And so I
Yeah.
said, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't want to lose a good friend. Um, and then a few months later, he came to me and said, yeah, I feel that too. And so we began our courtship and we're married about a year later. He's
That's
just so
so
wonderful.
sweet.
I did not want to be married again. I had this vision of myself and my dog and, a little house and a pickup truck. And he kind of blew all that out of the water. But he is my Boaz. If you know the story of Ruth and Naomi and Boaz, you know that Boaz was their
Yep.
kinsman redeemer. Uh, he is my Boaz. I'm so grateful to have this chance at marriage, and he's such a wonderful partner. I'm grateful for him. He is a gift. I have a spiritual director that I enjoy seeing monthly, and she said it perfectly. She said, God wrapped up gifts for you in James Hack that you never would have thought to wrap up for yourself. And that's true.
Oh, that's so well said. I love that. And yay, I really do look forward to meeting. He goes by James or Jim.
He goes by Jim. I call him
Okay.
James, when I need him to, pick up his socks. But
Yeah,
he
I
goes
understand
by,
that.
he goes by
I
Jim.
look I look forward to meeting Jim and you therefore because you've got this background with ORNL, you are very aware of the dynamics of the Oak Ridge engineer slash scientist community. You have experienced what it's like to have that moment when someone looks at you with a completely straight face and says, "Do you have peer reviewed sources for that statement you're
Yes,
making?" And that's
I live
that's
with
our
it
life here.
daily. I live with it daily.
Yep. Oh, I love that. Love that.
There are
So,
times that
and
I say, okay, too many questions, too many questions. I
yes,
can't
that's
deal with all the questions.
for those who are Enneagram 5 scientists, researchers, there are never too many questions. That's what you have to learn.
No,
But it's rough sometimes, but
there's
so you also
always more
mentioned
data.
yeah, there is always more data to be collected. Um, you mentioned that you're in a current appointment now at Powell
Mhm.
Church in Powell United Methodist Church. That is a part-time appointment, correct?
It is part time. I'm the executive pastor there. And so that is coming to an end June 30th. Um, I'm also excited to share I'll be received into conference membership at the annual conference at Lake Junaluska this year. So that's something that I'm excited about and looking forward to.
Congratulations. That's after a great deal of study and reflection and interviewing processes. I'm thrilled for you. That's a great achievement, and you should be very, very pleased and proud.
Well, thank you. It was a daunting day after having done all the work, sitting with the Board of Ordained Ministry for several hours, fielding questions. But it was a fun day, and I found the process to get there very formative. The work caused me to really look at and to be able to verbalize who I am and what I believe. So
Oh,
I'm
that's the
excited.
best. That's the way it should be. It should be affirming and it helps you really find your center in ministry. So,
Hmm.
but many people in our congregation don't realize they've had questions since the announcement went out last Sunday afternoon. You know, we're taking what was a full-time position with Seth, and Seth was both pastoral person and music and worship person. And what Staff Parish decided to do was split those gifts, that those callings into two different positions. So what we're looking for now is a part-time music and worship leadership person and a part-time pastoral care person, and that's what Denna comes to be, a part-time, half-time um, part of our pastoral staff. But I'll let you explain I mean, let's be honest, part-time is, where we're at, but how many hours a week is part-time in your ministry right now?
Oh, 40.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
People,
there's a joke, there's a saying, there is no part-time work, there's only part-time pay. And so the needs of the church are usually typically more than part-time. Um,
mhm.
but the way I view it is that this is who God created me to be. This is the work that I'm called to do. And so I do it faithfully, serving the church in whatever capacity the church needs. And then just work on having some good boundaries so that I can have, a healthy marriage and a healthy life as well.
I think you said that very well. And one of our jobs as colleagues on staff, and one of our jobs, frankly, as a congregation, is to support our staff. And whether you're part time or full time, it can become way too overwhelming. And so we need to encourage, and we want Denna and Jim to have good boundaries and have time together. We want her to not work 40 hours a week. We want Jenny and Jeff Kyle and all these other people who are here that have a tendency to push beyond the number of hours that is healthy. We want to encourage that behavior. So I want to completely support you when you're drawing those boundaries. And those of you who are part of this live interview, this live conversation, I want you to make sure you hear me clearly. We want to support Denna in her ministry and help her set good boundaries. Speaking of which, if you have questions for Denna, be sure to write them in the chat, and we'll make sure we get to those. We want to make sure we're answering your questions as well. She comes on July 1st, but that doesn't mean she'll be working right up to the end of June. I was really pleased for you. You're taking off earlier in June, as most pastors who make this transition are. You get 2 or 3 weeks off, some people up to 4 weeks off in the transition. But you have a very special trip planned. What are you planning and why in that time before you come to be with us?
Well, I have a couple of trips planned that I'm excited about. The first one is going to be next week, and I'm going to have a birthday. And so instead of getting things, I enjoy experiences. And so I asked my husband if we could please go hiking in the rainforest for my birthday. And he is obliging me. And so we're headed out to Seattle. We're going to fly into Seattle. We're going to drive several hours into the rainforest and spend the week there in Washington at the Lake Quinault rainforest. And I'm looking forward to that. I've got my rain gear ready. I love hiking in a rainforest. I did it once in Costa Rica, which was wonderful. And I'm interested to see what it will be like in Washington. This is a temperate rainforest, so it should be not quite as hot as the tropical rainforest, but I'll let you know when I get back. And then after that, I have another trip planned in June to go see my son. He's serving in the Army. He's currently in Missouri. And if you're familiar with the military, you get to see your family when the military says you can. And so they've said that he can have some time away in June. And so I'm looking forward to seeing him as well. He was in South Korea during COVID and shut down, locked away on the base. I had hoped to travel to see him while he was in South Korea, but when the pandemic hit, that didn't happen. And I remember when the death rate was so high with COVID and people were so sick, and we did not have vaccines and we did not have treatments. I remember driving into the church one day thinking, I wonder if the last time I saw my son will be the last time I see my
Right.
son. And so I'm grateful. Oh, I'm so grateful for any opportunity just to get to spend some time with him. He's soon to be 25. And so he has his own life, that doesn't always include his mother. But I'm grateful for that time and looking forward to that trip as well. So all that says that when it comes July 1, I will have been on vacation. I will have seen the people I love, and I'm ready to hit the ground running and do some good work at First Church.
Oh, I love to hear that, and we will be happy to receive you and let you be in ministry. I love that. Speaking of the ministry you're going to be doing here, are there just ministry in general, not necessarily here? You haven't been here yet to know exactly the areas you're going to fully plug into. We know that you're probably going to be helping be a liaison to our missions committee. You certainly, goodness knows, you have a great background for that. Um, what are the areas of ministry that you enjoy? Are there particular? I mean, there's dozens of ways to approach ministry. What are some of the areas you most enjoy?
I do enjoy pastoral care, um, that congregational care aspect of ministry, which is walking beside people in their spiritual journey. It can be during times of pain and suffering or times of great celebration, but just sharing that spiritual journey together. I enjoy that. I do enjoy missions. I enjoy everything. But Mark, I'm really happy that you're the lead pastor and that you get to do those administrative sorts of things. And so I really enjoy being in the associate pastor role. I do think it takes a team to do fruitful ministry, and we each have gifts that work perfectly together. And so I'm grateful to be able to do the pastoral care. Um, it sounds kind of weird, but I do find it meaningful to walk beside people when they're saying goodbye to someone they love. And so,
Yes,
sharing in a funeral service and providing a worship service for a family as they uh, transition from having that person in their life to figuring out what life looks like without that person. It's something that I won't say I enjoy it, but it's meaningful ministry. And so those sorts
right.
of things, I look forward to sharing with the church. Missions is fun too. I hope the world opens up so that we can do more of
Hmm.
that. Um, it'll be interesting to see how COVID plays out. I just got my fourth vaccination, and so I am fully vaccinated, and I've actually had COVID. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do more. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I'm hoping that in the foreseeable future we'll be able to get back. This church has a long history of doing mission work, local, community, regionally, and internationally. Um, and I certainly am hoping, longing for that moment when we can do more and get back into that rhythm.
Yeah.
Our big challenge is going to be including more family groups that are able to go in ministry and mission. It's really easy to send, well, not easy. It's easier to find time and opportunities for people who are retired to go take mission
Hmm.
trips. It's harder to incorporate the younger, those who are still working 9 to 5 jobs. And that's one of our great desires going into the future. Um, and you're also going to be preaching. Do you enjoy I mean, not,
We do.
I obviously take the lead on that, but you're going to get into that rotation. Do you enjoy preaching?
I do enjoy preaching. I love doing the homework that you do before you actually deliver the sermon. So, we would call that exegesis. I love looking at the scripture, learning who wrote it, why did they write
Hmm.
it, who did they write it to, what was the purpose. And then I typically start every sermon writing session with the same prayer: God, what is your message for your people on this day? Years ago, when I started preaching, an old pastor said to me, Denna, your job is not to get up there and talk. Your job is to listen to God on behalf of your congregation. And
Hmm.
gosh, that's so true. And so, I enjoy preaching. Every sermon, even if it's on a scripture that I've preached before, is always different because the context is always different. And our scriptures are living, they are dynamic, and there is always something to learn from a scripture that you think you may know and you've read it 1,000 times. Um,
Boy,
so
that
yeah, I
is the
like
truth.
that.
And let me tell you, very appropriate words for me on this Sunday. I'm preaching on the 23rd Psalm, which I don't think I've ever preached on the 23rd Psalm this Sunday, but in conjunction with mental health and the idea of
Uh-huh.
peace, that seemed like an appropriate text. So I resonate
Uh-huh.
with what you're saying about even beloved, very, very familiar passages. You find new new things from them. You learn how God is speaking through them depending on the context. So I'm
Mhm.
discovering that this week. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
that's
I have
wonderful.
to tell you. Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Um, I will tell you, I think it was fun after Denna came by to sign paperwork earlier in the week, and she got to meet a few of the staff. I haven't met everybody yet, but the the two or three people that she met afterwards, after you left, like Josh came out. She met Josh. She was in the office, and Josh came out and said, "Oh, I really like her. She's nice." and then Linda made a point after going to sign all her paperwork administratively. Linda came out and goes, "Oh, I like her. She's going to fit in well around here." And same thing for Jenny. After you left, and Jenny and Denna and I had a long conversation. I said, "So, what'd you think?" And she said, "Oh, it's going to be great." Are you kidding? So, it's that same reaction I had to meeting you and talking and feeling like that was a good fit. I think everybody's sharing that. So, I look forward to our congregation having time to meet you, to get to know you, to ask questions, uh, just to welcome you into the greater community that we have here. And I guess I just want to give you an opportunity. We still have 15 minutes. We don't have to use all that time. But is there a message you want to communicate to the congregation that as you arrive, is there anything in particular you haven't had a chance to say yet that you want to have a chance to say?
Oh gosh. Well, I will say that the feeling was completely mutual. Everyone that I met, whom I have met thus far, I walk away thinking, man, we're going to have a lot of fun together. We're going to do some good work. We're going to do some good ministry, and we're going to have a whole lot of fun doing it. And so I look forward to being there. I guess if there's a message that I would want you to know is, being a pastor is more than a job. It's a lifestyle, and for me, it is who God has created me to be. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
who God has created me to be, and so I won't be perfect, but I will love you faithfully, and I will serve you sacrificially. Um, I'll be the best Denna Hornby that I can be for you, and I look forward to sharing life with you and sharing ministry with you, and for all of us growing in our faith together. I look forward to that.
yeah. Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. And I know you have many experiences that are going to take place over the next, I mean, few weeks. Well, we're 8 weeks away from you being around here, something like that. And you get to go see your son. Happy Mother's Day this weekend, by the way. You get
Thank
to
you.
experience rainforest life. You get to have say goodbye to your current situation and thanks to all those people. But we want you to know when you arrive here, we will welcome you and look forward to just getting to know you better.
I look forward to that. Yeah.
Well, we don't have any. I'm not seeing any questions on the
Oh,
commentary.
nothing about favorite food or most embarrassing moment or favorite color. None of that.
Well, I will always take an embarrassing story if you want to share. I wasn't going to put you in that position. I was just going to like let you off the hook. God knows you'll have enough of those questions around here. But yeah, if you want to share embarrassing pastoral story, I'll always hear that.
I have so many to choose from. Gosh. Uh, okay. I
Because
think
see,
this is
I immediately think, oh, I have things I could share. No, not going to share that one. Not going to share that one. Uh, okay, well,
okay.
we do
So,
have a question finally. How do you spell your
oh, yay!
name?
Saved by the question. What was it? Spell my name.
Yeah, how do you spell Denna?
Denna. Denna.
Excellent. Clayton and Miriam and Luann, thank you for being writing some questions in. Clayton, you will get to know and love Clayton, who's part of our choir. Can't wait to meet you. That's
Oh,
wonderful.
Clayton.
Sharing that
Yeah.
kind of, yeah. So,
So I can share
anything you
one
want to
embarrassing.
know?
I can
Oh,
share one
okay,
embarrassing
good.
while there. Okay. So, oh, it was a funeral, and the funeral home was there. They were setting everything up. I was with the grieving family, and the funeral director came running to me, running, saying, I need a screwdriver. I need a screwdriver. And I'm like, dude, I don't have a screwdriver. I got a Bible. I don't have a screwdriver. He's like, I need a screwdriver and I need it quickly. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I couldn't just leave the family. And so I went looking for where I thought the screwdriver should be, and it was not there. And the funeral director ran from the building and said, I'll be back. In the meantime, I have the urn. I'm trying to show you my hands. I have the urn with the cremains, and the screw had come out of the bottom of the urn, and their ashes are like falling. And it was unintentional that this would happen, but there was a defect with the urn, and I was just trying so hard to hide it from the family because I didn't want them to be upset that their loved one's ashes were dripping out of the urn. But the funeral director came back very quickly. He had the perfect screwdriver for the urn, and we fixed it with no muss and fuss. And that's only one of many.
That is awful, and it is also reminiscent of how many embarrassing moments happen at funerals. Steve, we should do a whole conversation about embarrassing wedding and funeral experiences. That is honest to goodness. If you think I'm kidding, that is amazing how often that is the problem area. Is that not true, Steve?
I'm all down for it. I've always thought it would be like a great documentary to do, like a behind the scenes at the funeral home kind of thing. All the awkward
so
stuff
many bad
that takes
things.
place.
Oh my gosh!
It's really
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. Have you ever had a bride's veil catch on fire? It happens. I had a girlfriend. She was one of my clergy women girlfriends. She was presiding at a wedding. What? You?
Yes, of course. Robe caught on fire. Yes.
Oh, that is so
It's ugly. It's ugly. Oh man.
I want to put the question on the board there. Is there a way that our church could reach out to members of our armed services?
Yes, thank you, Laura. I love that question.
Absolutely. Absolutely, there are ways, and I'm happy to facilitate that. The easiest way for me is directly with my son. He's a first lieutenant serving in the Army, and so he has lots of soldiers in his command who need a lot of love. Specifically, what I've done in the past is connect with them over the holidays. Uh, they just get lonely during the holidays. That's when they really start missing their people the most. The Army's pretty good at keeping them busy, so they don't have a whole lot of downtime. But when the holidays come around, it really just hurts to be away from your family. What I've learned specifically as an Army mom is that it's not just the soldier that serves the country and sacrifices for the country, it's the whole family. And so, yes, absolutely. I would love to share in that with you. It's on my, yeah.
Great. Love that. Thank you for that question, Laura. Wonderful.
Anybody else? This is your time. This is your moment. We are
I'll
only
speak a
going
little
to
bit.
be live for another few minutes.
Okay, so I'm going to speak to that just a little bit more, if I may. When our soldiers come home, they need so much support when they come home, and whatever we can do to love and serve our veterans is what we need to be doing for our veterans.
Yeah.
I've had some interesting experiences over the years of being a chaplain to the chaplains.
Oh, wow.
It's interesting. It's interesting that the chaplains are there for everybody else, but nobody's really there for them. And sometimes even sometimes the support structures fail them. Just like they do everywhere. In anything. And where the church can sometimes have such a broad reach as being able to be the chaplain to the chaplains, it's just amazing to see how far how it all spreads out. Our influence in showing kindness and listening to one person, no matter where they are in their station of life, and how that really plays out. Yeah, so I got to ask you, Denna. I get to ask the last questions. This is part of my job, and I get to put myself right in the middle. You can't see it, I don't think, but I'm right in the middle of the screen. So between the two of you, it's a fun place to be. It's the only time I get to do that. But um, what high school did you go to?
Gibbs High School, Gibbs Eagles.
All right, all right. I was thinking maybe since you were in Coreyton, we might know some folks in common, but not
Okay,
probably not.
I have a question. I have a question. We've heard, now I'm not complaining. We've heard your dog bark in the background a couple of times. Can you bring
Yes.
your dog so we can see your dog?
Sure. I'll step away for just a moment. Her name is
I mean,
Bindi.
you set it up like you were ready to just settle down with Bindi and not and didn't need to get remarried, married. You were happy. I would love to see Bindi.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I am unashamedly just be smitten with this dog. She is 70 pounds of lap dog. We had, oh, yeah, bring her in. My husband just stepped out and said, would you like for me to bring the dog in? So she is 70
Yay.
pounds of lap dog. She doesn't understand that she's 70 pounds or that she is heavy. She wants to be right in your lap all the time. We had her DNA done. That was my Mother's Day present last year. Um, and she is 24% American Bulldog, 26% Bull Mastiff, and
Wow.
34% Hound Dog. And then the rest, they just call her Super Mutt. So let me see if I can move my camera down. Hi, girl. Is she there? Oh, there she is. Hi. Here we go.
Pretty.
I'm gonna unplug my computer. I'm gonna lift it down. Here we go. Say hi,
Oh.
Minnie. Hi. Oh no, wait, she's camera shy. Hey, girl. You want to say hi, Jim? Say hi. There's
Hello.
Jim. So
Hi.
that's the family. Yeah, she's a sweet
Oh.
girl.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Oh, you'll have
When
to
we
bring her by
first,
church sometime when you're visiting. That's
okay,
I would
don't
love to.
say it if you don't mean it, because it will happen.
Oh wow, I mean that. That happens around here. I love that idea.
So when I first came here to Knoxville when we first married, Jim wasn't quite sure he wanted a dog, and it was a package deal. So he loved me, so he thought, well, I'll love the dog too. And now she is Daddy's girl, and he has bought her no less than 8 beds. So she's a little spoiled. She
Now
has
the other
three
thing
beds in the bedroom.
I was going to say, the other thing I want to make sure, I don't think the two of you know, this is my chance to point out something, Steve. What you don't know is Denna describes herself as a foodie. And let me guarantee you that Steve and Meg are foodies as well. And I'd look forward to hearing more about that conversation.
You are my people. Yes, we shall break bread together.
It's my love language. It's my
Yeah.
love language, and making
Yep.
sure that everybody's fed and that everybody's fed spectacularly is a passion of mine. So, great.
Yes, please. I
I
exercise so I can eat.
well, I don't. I just eat. I don't exercise. I just want to say, Dana. Again, if you know anything about my history with the church, I was born into church and raised into church, and I was, confirmed at First Methodist and married the first time there. Just every major life event. Both of my parents are buried in the memorial garden, and just it is my church. It's and that's been the weird part of being part of the itinerant system is they. You can't have your church anymore. Well, I got a church. By golly, I got it. It's my church, and this is the church that has. And not least of all of that, I was associate pastor for 7 years, so I don't want to forget about that. But it is a special place. It is a very special place, and
It is.
um, I guess everybody's church, everybody's home church is special to them in some regard. But I really do believe that First Oak Ridge is a very special place, and I'm excited I'm excited for the people because of your personality and your passion and all of that. But I'm also excited for you that you get to encounter these folks and get to be a part of this family because it's really it's a special place, as I said. Yeah.
Yeah, I can sense that already in just the small amount of time I've had there. And everyone that I talk to, all my clergy friends, when I say, I'm going to Oak Ridge, the reaction is always, oh, that's a great church. So, yeah, I'm grateful to be a part. I can't wait to get there. I'm excited.
Yay. Yay, yay, yay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Denna. It's been a real pleasure. And I look forward to making that really the real introduction the first Sunday of July. Everybody can be looking forward to
Yes.
that moment. And now you know who to be praying for. Pray for
Yes.
Denna in this transitional time, and pray for she and Jim as they make this next step in their life together. And pray for the church that we'll be ready to receive her with grace and love.
Thank you. Pray for me and I'll pray for you.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, I'm gonna attempt to sign off correctly this time. So, Mark, yeah, Mark, watch your language just in case we're not.
God knows that's the truth. I will be careful here.
Yeah, just I'll give you the signal here when I know that we're offline. But watch your language
Hmm.
until you get that signal. Denna, you too. You too.
Yeah,
Okay.
Got it. I'm on my best behavior.
Okay. Well, this is
good.
there are literally tens of people watching right now, so we want to be careful and not to splay. Anyway, everybody that watched this, thank you, and I hope it's been enjoyable. We're here every Thursday at 11 o'clock in the morning. Of course, you can if you are not able to catch it live, this is archived. It's on the website, all that good stuff. So you can watch it to your heart's content. You can. Settle down in the evening with a nice Chardonnay and just take in this amazing conversation each week. It
I
should
love
be
that
part of
attitude.
your
Yeah.
Thursday night routine, I think. That and reruns of Friends. Anyway, thank you all, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye, everybody.